We're going to have some conversation about autism, special needs.
His developmental skills were that of a 5-month-old.
What do you mean, delay 5 months?
So you would bring him to the park and he loved the swings, and when it was time to go home, it was a huge tantrum. I have a tendency to do, if you look at my son away, I think you look at him bad, I'm ready for fight. The way how you see your child is potentially how other people are going to see your child. We use terms like handicap, retarded.
They are ignorant, they don't know.
Open Chat Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Open Chat Podcast. You know, the place where we have honest conversation about real things. And it's been a while since we had an episode of Open Chat Podcast because we haven't had a space. However, we are back and loaded. Open Chat is in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And today's guest is Renay Clark. And we're going to have some conversation about autism, special needs, and she's a strong advocate for it. Plus, she just recently launched her podcast called Possibility Beyond. And we are going to delve into a nice conversation with her. Welcome, Renay.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, Renay, tell us about your son that have autism.
So my son is Kairo. He is 5 years old.
Yeah.
And just was diagnosed with autism at 2.5 years old. Kairo is just like any other kid. He's energetic, fun-loving, very, 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 very smart. And right now he's just navigating life with autism.
And guys, before we go any further, we cannot start the show without a Bible verse. And look how good this Bible verse is going to tie into what Renay just said. The Bible verse is, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And that is from Proverbs 22, verse 6. And you're going to get that theme from her throughout the interview, and you will realize that this is a special child. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, she is my cousin-in-law, and Kairo move like I'm a son. Uncle Chad favorite. Hey, but I'm telling you, Kairo is an awesome child. And let me tell you, I'm joined by a really incredible woman. As I tell you, she is the host of Possibility Beyond. Renay is a powerful voice for autism advocacy, and she is going to just share her story. And the more we speak, the more you're going to get a deeper understanding as to who Renay is and what she stands for. And I love the name Possibility Beyond. It's kind of a shift in the narrative about you can live beyond your limitation or your purpose.
Right, absolutely.
And Kairo speaks to that. Kairo can do anything you can think about. I remember when I first met Kairo.
Yeah.
That was like 2 years ago. And Kairo, I was afraid to play with Kairo because I didn't understand what autism was. And so I was more stick on to his sister, Kiera. And the more I get to be around Kairo, the more I get to understand who Kairo is. And fast forward to summer last year, where I spent 3 months with Kairo. And it's my best friend. I pick up Kairo from school. I put Kairo on the bus to go to school. And trust me, if you see me, you'd probably think I'm a son. Yeah. But tell us more about Kairo.
He's currently nonverbal, just learning to sound his letters at 6 years old. But what I can say is Kairo is like he surprises me every single day in terms of like his ability. The other day you burst out, you didn't know he knew how to count.
Yes.
which thinking about it, like, how do you know how to do these things without speech? And what we do, especially is not limit him to his disability, not limit him to his diagnosis. He still teaches him how to count. He teaches him his letters. He knows his numbers. And I swear to you that I think Kairo can read. He can't verbalize it, but he will pick up a book and sit in his bed and he'll flip through. He is different, but different in a good way. He's just, if you know me, you know that Kairo is just my world. If you're a mom, you know how mothers are with their kids. But he was my first. He made me into a mom. So it's just once you get to know him, you love him. Once you get to know Kairo, you love Kairo.
But let's take a step back. Take us to the moment when you first realized that your son was autistic.
So it wasn't just a moment. Kairo was born the January before COVID, January 2019. And to me, like, me as a parent, remember I mentioned that he was my first. So to me, he was just like any typical developed kid. He was meeting his milestones until around 9 months old. This wasn't me noticing anything. Around 9 months old, I remember his aunt, Twanda, who spends a lot of time with him, mentioned to me if I ever thought that Kairo was autistic. And I'm like, autistic? No. Like, why would you say that? And she was like, because he never looks up or react when I say his name.
The typical thing that a regular, not say regular, but what an average child would do.
So I wasn't too concerned about it. For me, I think that I thought he was just being fresh. I thought he was just, not really talking to anyone because he was in a world by himself.
Okay.
I remember I worked from home during COVID because by then everybody would have been out of the office and I was working from home, and he didn't cry a lot. He would be able to sit and just be his own company. If I left the room, he wouldn't cry.
So for you, it's like he was an amazing baby.
Oh yes, man. Kairo was this great, wonderful baby for me. It didn't ring a bell to think that those are things that he should have been doing.
Okay.
So I never thought that he was autistic until she mentioned it. And of course, I got all defensive and be like, no, what you mean autistic, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then she left and I'm like, let me go on Google. We call it Dr. Google. So we went on Google and, I put in autism and he started to check the boxes. And that was when I'm like, oh, so maybe he is. And I reached out to his pediatrician. They said, come in for an appointment. When we went there, the pediatrician, I don't want to say dismissive, but they were like, well, he's young. He's still young, so they don't think much of it. I don't remember if I left that appointment without a referral or if I was persistent, but I remember noticing that he stopped doing things that he was doing, like leading up to like a year old. Okay. He would mama, dada. He was now eating solid foods. He loved fried chicken and fries, and he would eat just about any seafood. But then he stopped eating.
He regressed.
The term for that is regressing. He stopped eating. He stopped making sounds. It was just as if he was a baby again. And that was when we really became concerned.
So what emotion hit you? Was it fear, denial? What was it?
During that phase, I just wanted to know what was going on. There wasn't much emotion, more so curiosity. Okay. I was curious to say what was going on. The pediatricians didn't think much of it until I remember they do those pre-screenings, and they ask you if there was anything that you were concerned about. And I wrote that on the screening, and then they said they're going to refer him to early intervention. Okay. And they call you to do the assessment to see if you qualify for services. And during that time, as I said, it was during COVID. He would have already turned 1. It was probably, no, it was in COVID, full swing of COVID. I don't remember exactly how long after. And they did the assessment. We were sitting in the living room on Zoom, and them asking him to do stuff. He was bouncing up and down on the couch, and I remember the nurse said to me if I ever heard of the term autism, and I started to cry. Like immediately I started to cry, and I couldn't tell you why I was crying, but I started to cry because I think for now it's becoming a reality because somebody else sees it.
I was just going to say, was that the moment when you realized that things started to change for you as a mother? So how did the journey affect you and your husband individually during that time?
During that time, it was a strange time too, because my husband was managing a pharmacy at that time, so he wasn't really at home a lot. It was COVID, a pharmacy is one of those places that has to remain open.
Yeah.
And he was a manager, so, staffing was also an issue. So he wasn't at home a lot. Like he was at home, but he worked a lot. And then like for me, I was seeing all of it play out, but for him, it was just a typical developing child. He was a bit delayed, yes, but he was not he wasn't on the board. He didn't jump on the bandwagon of him being autistic. So it was kind of like a tug and war-ish. Like he would be like, don't speak those things over him. Nothing wrong with him. He's gonna be fine. While I'm looking for those services. So that as you can imagine, if you're in a relationship and you're not in agreement, that's gonna cause some tension. So that was what it was at that time.
How did you feel?
I can't remember how I felt. All I know is I wanted answers. And after the early intervention said he might be autistic, they advised me to reach out back to the pediatrician. So now he would have been like a year and few months. And they said, reach out to the pediatrician, ask for a referral to Boston Children, because doctors, regular pediatrician don't diagnose. It has to go to behavioral specialist. That's where you would get the diagnosis. And they send the referral to Boston Children, which was a whole other story in itself, because nothing would have prepared me to know that for you to get an appointment for one of these evaluations, the wait list was a year long. A year long,
just to get that?
Just to get an appointment. The wait list was a year long.
But wasn't that like hurtful for you knowing all of this, because your son going through it, you not knowing what the process is, and you have to wait a year long?
But I have to say, Kennedy Donovan Center, early intervention, they stepped in and they were coming to the house for one-on-one sessions 1 time per week.
Okay.
So that would have been like the early intervention piece, which really helped to, balance out the weight.
Okay.
He was also referred to Spalding for speech therapy, feeding therapy, which was a challenge in itself. But there's nothing that you can do. You wait, because just imagine that it's not just your child. There is thousands of kids on those wait lists. You just have to wait.
But within that, what kept your relationship grounded, knowing that you guys going through it? He, at that time, wasn't on the bandwagon of him being autistic. You probably come into being that, hey, my son is autistic. What kept you guys grounded?
I will say, regardless of, my husband came or not be in agreement with the initial eval, he is a great dad, and he's a dedicated dad too. So he was there with him when he was able to, when work allowed him to. So I think our relationship was okay, given the fact that he was still present and still showing up and was still, looking for answers and was still trying to understand what was going on.
At least I can attest to seeing him daily. He's really a great dad.
Yeah.
He's there for his son, football, playing on the ground, whatever it is, he's there.
Yeah, it's and I wanted to say, it's not unusual for one parent to not feel the same as another, because it's a process and everybody goes through, their process. I was the same way when Twanda said to me that he might be. It just so happened that I'm now the one that is seeking for the answers, and I'm now, reading up and researching and being more ready to accept versus...
Because you were the first one to come in contact with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me now, was it intimidating walking in throughout the process?
Intimidating how?
As in, like, even though you were coming in contact with the idea that your son is autistic, going through the process, was it intimidating?
Going through the process, I would say, was challenging. There were moments when when I personally was kind of losing hope. There was moments when I was depressed. There was moments that when I would cry. There was just a whole lot of things that you were going through. And then mind you, like growing up in a country where you don't hear the term autism, you might know, but back then, because I was away from Jamaica for years, and even though I'm in America, you don't necessarily hear the term autism until you come in encounter with somebody with autism.
Well, that's true.
And I've never really been in encounter with anyone with autism before. Kairo was my first, or maybe I was in encounter, but I didn't recognize it because autism is not one of those disability that you could look at and say, yes, this person is autistic.
You didn't even know the titles and to use.
So once you hear autism, and if you're from Jamaica, you know that it is just nothing good. We use terms like handicap and retarded and stuff like that. There's no, pretty term like disability and special needs and things like that. You just know that it's something bad, and immediately you go to the stigma that's attached with these.
And then sometimes you can't even blame that they don't know.
You don't know better.
And sometimes it's not out of the fact that they are trying to be bad towards the person.
Yeah, it's not
just
malicious intent, you just don't
ignorant.
know.
They don't know.
And I too, like, I was also ignorant.
Because I was the same when I came in contact with him. To be honest, I really never know what autism was.
Yeah.
I just noticed that he had certain characteristics that were different. And I just felt afraid because he used to bite.
Yes.
So I never know what to do and how to maneuver it. So
yes.
After a little while, it became normal. I know what to do, how to treat him. And it doesn't seem out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Because he's a very smart kid.
Yes.
If you tell him to close the door, he'll do it.
Yes.
If you tell him to put down his tablet, he may throw a tantrum, but he'll do it.
Yes.
He's a really good kid. What misinformation or misconception did you have about the IEP before getting one?
So I didn't know anything about IEP prior, because IEP is something that we would have to talk about, transition into school.
Yeah.
IEP is something that you get introduced to once your child starts going to school. It's shortening for individual educational plan. So I didn't know what an IEP was. All I knew was that they offered it to me. And it was something that I had to take because he had a disability.
Yeah.
So know that he has an IEP, and I have had an IEP for a while. I think one misconception was that I thought that I just had to accept whatever it was that they gave us, versus knowing that you have a voice. You can talk about the different, talk about the needs of the child and what you think would best benefit the child.
But I remember that you had a issue with the school. I think they were saying that he's not ready for an IEP.
No, that wasn't an IEP. Once you have a child with a diagnosis, they automatically qualifies for an IEP.
Okay.
Yes. What they were saying he wasn't ready for was AAC device.
The device.
Yes, the device. Because of his age, typically you don't get an AAC device like going out there requesting it on your own.
Yeah.
Some people waited until the child was school age, but Kairo had his AAC device before he was school age, because that was something that I had advocated for. So when he was in school, when he was, they're saying they can't put it on his IEP because he doesn't know how to use it. But my argument was, just as how you teach a child to speak is the same way how you teach a child to use his device. And if he doesn't use it in school where he spends most of his days, how is he going to learn? And eventually they, gave in and put it in there. And now he's doing great with it.
Yeah, let's roll it back a little. tell me about how things were post his what's the word? His diagnosis.
So, as I said, it was a long wait time for the initial eval. And we tried our best as a family. Early intervention was there, and I kept on calling. That's one thing you're going to have to learn how to do if you have a child or family member with special needs, is advocate. I probably called Boston Children's every day. And then one time my husband was going to go off to do a job that would require training. And mind you, if you know me, I don't drive. I drive, but I don't drive. I'm not going to ever drive to Boston. So I told them, I'm like, my husband is going to go away for a while for training. And he was the one that was going to take him. And I needed to get in for the appointment before he left. And I think they empathized with me and gave us an appointment, which was probably months later.
Yeah.
But after you get that initial eval, it's like a 4-hour long evaluation. You drive up to Boston, which is like an hour and maybe an hour and 20 minutes away from where we at. And then you bring him. He was 2 years, 5 months at that time. You bring him, they sit him down in a room. And they have like a range of different activities, age-appropriate things that he should be doing. And they're just assessing him, watching him, asking him, telling him to do things. And at that age, he wasn't able to perform any of the tasks. There was an audiologist too, because he had to do an ear exam. Because when you find that your kids don't have speech, they want to make sure that their hearing. His hearing was fine. There was the developmental specialist. You had a child psychiatrist. I think you had a regular pediatrician. There was a bunch of people there, PT, OT, just really assessing to see, what, because you go in with the idea that, okay, your child might be autistic, but you don't go in with a diagnosis. They're evaluating and assessing and determine what the disability is, if there's a disability.
Okay.
And that was in June. Then after that whole thing, you don't leave with a diagnosis. They tell you we're going to get together and talk and determine what, if anything, and then you book your appointment. It was over Zoom that we would get the results. And that was like 2 weeks passed, and then Dr. Baker called with the results to say Kairo was autistic. But it wasn't that I was prepared for, because by then everybody was saying it. So by then you'd feel like, okay. But that wasn't his only diagnosis. He was also diagnosed with global developmental delay and avoidable food intake, because he only eats like 3 foods, which is common amongst people with autism.
So how did you felt, one, when you get that he is not doing all the things that he was supposed to do throughout the different examination, and 2, even though you understand what was said post, what was it like for you now, knowing that, one, he regressed so far back that he's not eating like he was before, and how did you manage that?
Honestly, we were just, as it relates to his eating, I didn't think too much of it, which now to think of it, yes, I was concerned, but he was eating porridge. And if you're Jamaican, you feel like, porridge is healthy enough. At least he drinks cornmeal porridge, and that's his meal every single day, 3 times a day. So he was eating that. He ate fruits and juices. So that I was somewhat okay with. I think what hit me like a ton of bricks after the diagnosis was hearing how delayed he was. Because it was a 21-page long assessment. And then they had this chart. I don't remember the name of the chart, but they had this chart where they compared like where he's at, and where he's at now, and where he should be. And they were saying that his developmental skills were that of a 5-month-old. Speech was that of a 5-month-old. His occupation therapy wise, 5-month-old. And I was like, no way. Like, there's no way. I didn't realize that he was this delayed. And
so the denial was real.
Yeah, like at that point. And I remember the specialist asking if I had any questions, and I'm like, By this time, I'm checked out.
Yeah, you fully know.
I'm like checked out because I'm like...
I could understand.
I'm like, no, I don't have any questions.
Because it don't seem realistic.
Yeah, I'm like, foolishness, them are telling me, like, what do you mean?
What do you mean, delay 5 months?
Exactly. I'm like, he's walking. The only thing in my eyes he wasn't doing was talking.
Yeah.
But at that time, he still didn't really know how to help himself, like to put on a shoes per se, button his shirt. He wasn't potty trained, still learning how to potty train. So I'm like, nonsense, foolishness, like, me not accept it, you know? And then I accept the autism diagnosis, but that part was hard for me. And then I remember I left the meeting and I went to the room and I cried, a good proper crying, and then came back out like nothing happened.
So what was it for your husband?
I think that was the part where he was more accepting.
Oh, okay.
Like, he's now getting to accept it because the professionals are saying it. And things really, really, really started to look up, because one thing with him, like, if there's a solution, he's going to find it. And one thing that came with the assessment was recommendations, where you're recommended to do speech, OT, feeding, and ABA, which is applied behavioral analysis. It's a special therapy for people with autism. So he was like on the ball, ready to go.
I remember watching your first episode where he said that he was at the point where he wanted to cry as well, but he had to be strong for his family. So he kept it to himself. And you didn't tell him.
I didn't tell him that I cried.
You left and cried.
No. No, which is really not unusual. Like, for me, I found myself crying a lot, because you're now grieving the child that you thought you would have, which is very typical. Because when nothing really prepares you, except for like disabilities like Downs, where you have testing you do prior to giving birth, and you know you're prepared mentally, even though that still doesn't make it any better, I don't think. But you know.
But this is after
nothing
post-birth.
really prepares you to know that, which most babies with autism will develop typically until a certain age. Then you realize that, you know, either they regress or they don't progress much further. So nothing would have prepared you to say, okay, my child is gonna be autistic, and prepare you to say how you're gonna be, you know? And then there was not much representation again in our culture. I'll keep saying that. In the Caribbean or Jamaica, there's not much, you know, families coming out there to say, my child is autistic. Maybe now, but back then you would, you know, meet a child in school or somebody in the community, and to you, they're different or they're weird or whatever term you would use, but you didn't think autism because it wasn't something that we know or speak about. No. So this is like my first, and I'm like, you know, I start asking why, and then it was just, you know, really wanting him to do things that he wasn't able to do. Then you start to compare. You start to compare, saying, Tom Joe's son, I do this. Why is he not doing this? Or people would say, well, you know, nothing wrong with him. My son talked when he was 3, and seeing that now, good, you can't, nobody not talk like him or whatever. Then I would have family members too who would be like,
bring him to Jamaica.
Send the boy from Jamaica, because you have him coop up in the house. You know, have no other thing to play with. And, you know, talk to him, or you'd have, there was just so much. And then I had my daughter. And then I saw that. Okay.
But before you move any further, I know you bring up your daughter. Was there anything in the back of your mind that your second child would be the
autistic? Same? So our second child, because by then I had already decided that we're not going to have more children. Oh. So we never planned for her. But God blessed us with her. He knew we needed her. And then my daughter came. And yes, I was worried. Like I would be looking for things as a baby.
Yeah, because you went through it already with
so
Kairo.
I'd be looking for things, and there would be things. There would be things to make me feel like, okay, maybe she's autistic too. Yeah. So I also had her evaluated with early intervention, but not like the whole thing. Yeah. But I think in a sense we're all probably a little bit autistic if you should just sit down and study behaviors. But Kira now, she she's like on the other end. So while Kairo was delayed in so much areas, she was way ahead, like super fast. And that was when I'm like, okay. So now I realize what they were saying when they said he was that delayed, like he was 5 months. Because at 5 months, Kira was waving, doing all of these stuff, versus Kairo, who wasn't able to do it as yet. But I think, having her too really helped. It really
balance,
yes. And it really modeled to me what he should be doing. And then as she grew, she started to teach him too.
She's like a big sister instead of a younger sister.
Yes. She really, like right now, thinks that she's his mom. So she helps him in every aspect. But you go through your different phases until I think, and you have to go through your phases because you can't say it's okay when it's really not. You have to go through your phases, and then once you get to that acceptance phase, that's when like it starts becoming, you still have challenges, but it becomes more smooth sailing.
And what it was like traversing outside of the home with him.
So there was a time when we would just not go anywhere. Not because we were ashamed of Kairo, but because bringing Kairo outside of the house was a whole task in itself, outside of the task that you're taking him out of the house to do. So you would bring him to the park and he loved the swings. And when it was time to go home, it was a huge tantrum.
He doesn't want to go.
He would be doing the most and people would be staring. And you're not roughing him up, but you're having to pick him up and throw him over your shoulder and bring him. And people are staring, probably looking like you're hurting him. Because that was the way how he was behaving.
Yeah.
He couldn't sit still.
And then the fact that they don't know that he's autistic.
Exactly. He couldn't sit still. He would run off.
Yeah.
That was a big thing too, because he doesn't know safety. So he would run off, and I would be scared. Like I was not bringing him anywhere without his dad.
Yeah.
I still, in a sense, feel better if I take him out with his dad. Because you can't be like, Kairo stand right here and he stands. He'll run off in the streets.
And then he obeys his dad.
Yes.
When his dad says stay here, he stays.
Yes.
Which sometimes I'm wondering if he purposely doing it to another person's feet.
And I liked, me personally, I liked to keep him in a bubble. I like to just have him to myself. But then you find out that you're doing him a disservice by not having him interact, by not having him go outside of the house.
Because that's the only way he will develop, because he learned by repetition.
Yes, exactly. So I think it became easier once he went off to school.
Yeah.
And then that I had no control over. I had to just leave it up to the caretakers and the teachers.
I remember being here last summer and Kim said, I'm going to teach him how to feed himself. And I remember capturing that moment on the phone. And he was there eating by himself. And I'm like, this is amazing.
I think
it's like watching a newborn baby learning to do something. You feel so proud. Yes. I remember even him playing with the shapes. And he was putting in the triangle. I'm like, when did he learn these things?
Kairo's very smart in that way. And I feel like he too, he's so smart where he will pretend to not know something.
I think so.
Yeah.
I very much think
he will pretend, because there are times when he just don't want to be bothered. And if you try to bother him, he will just shut down and pretend as if he doesn't know. Yeah. And then other times when you're not looking, you'll find him doing things. Like I will find him watching the TV and sounding out the letters to the alphabet. But if you prompt him, he won't do it.
He won't do it. Even him playing around with the tablet, that's very amazing to me. He knows exactly where to find YouTube, which video he wants to watch, and he scrub it to the area that he wants, and when it passes there, bring it back to the beginning where he wants it to start. And it's very amazing just watch him.
Yeah.
He's an amazing kid.
He is, yes.
I really love him.
Yes.
I want to play a game with you.
Yes.
And the game is called Myth or Truth.
Okay.
Autism edition.
Okay. Don't embarrass me now.
So we are just going to have a light game.
Okay.
Very light. So autistic children don't show affection. Is it a myth or it is a truth?
It's a myth.
All right. An IEP limits a child's future.
It depends. So it all depends on the parent. You have to, the school usually sometimes just have a generic IEP. An IEP is supposed to cater to the kid's needs.
To
like
personalize for the child.
Yes, that's specific needs for the child. So if you as a parent goes into your IEP meeting and you just accept everything, all right, let's say, for instance, I know Kairo is able to do this at home, but he goes to school and he doesn't show the teachers that he is able to do that.
Yeah.
They're under the perception that he does not know how to do that.
Okay.
So their expectation is going to be very low.
So you would have to communicate that to
Yes,
them.
their expectation for what he can do will be very low. And then you find that he's not progressive in school.
So for you is the truth.
Could be. Both.
No, I said for you.
For me, well, not for me, because I advocate for my child and I read
So
his
it's a myth
IEP.
for you.
Yeah, I read his IEP and I tell them what I want to be on the IEP. I tell them what my expectations are. But then you have parents who don't know that they're able to say, well, he can do this and this should be in his IEP, and then that's when it limits the child's ability, because it is said that most students who go on an IEP never comes off on an IEP.
Okay.
And those are researches that I'm doing now, because I'm like, okay, well, let me call up the school then, because now we're focusing on speech versus academics, and I want for him to know that 1 + 1 is 2. So now we're going to work that into his IEP, versus you're just sitting down there teaching him how to say mama, dada, verbalize, when what if that is not going to be his language,
But at least he can communicate in other ways.
Communicate in other ways. There's signs, there's picture devices, there's an AAC device, there's a textbook, there's so much other ways to communicate. So, okay, now he's 7 years old and he has speech, but he doesn't know 1 + 1 = 2.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
Autism looks the same in every child.
That's a myth.
Okay. Early intervention makes a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If there's a parent listening right now who just received a diagnosis, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to go watch Possibility Beyond. Go watch my podcast, Possibility Beyond, because that will, I won't say the emotions is going to be any different, but at least you'll know that, outside of this diagnosis, there's still a wide array of possibilities for your child. And while all disabilities look different, all abilities are different, it's nice to look and see that, okay, well, Renay has a son who is autistic and he's doing well, or Chad has a son who is autistic and he's doing well, or Tom has a daughter who is autistic and he's doing well. It's important to know that this is not the end of it. Yes, the child might have limitations, but that autism is only, or disabilities is only a part of who that child is. Okay. And it is us as parents that's gonna make a world of difference. It's advocating. It's going out there looking for the services. It's really just pouring into your child, loving your child regardless, knowing that you will get through it together. Ask for help. If you need help, ask for help. Don't be afraid to verbalize that my child has a need. My child has a special need, and this is why he has these behaviors.
True.
Don't take everything personal, because we have a tendency to do that. I have a tendency to do. If you look at my son away, I think you look at him bad, I'm ready for fight. Like, I'm just being honest, because you become overprotective. But the person who is looking might be admiring.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to always be such a negative thing. So if I were to say,
because we start to develop thoughts in our head that is not the reality.
Yes, and the way how you see your child. And it was another advocate who tells me that the way how you see your child is potentially how other people are going to see your child. So learn the correct terms, correct people when they describe your child in a way that you don't want them to.
Because the next time they will try their very hardest to remember what you are told.
Yeah, understanding that the people it's hard to comprehend what you don't understand. So if I don't understand it, I'm not going to be able to say exactly what it is. And for those too who are not dealing with people with special needs, have grace. Have grace, knowing that sometimes this parent is trying their best, even though it looks like the child is spoiled or they're not doing much. Or don't be so quick to judge, because you don't know what happened in other people's household. You don't know what trials and tribulation that person is overcoming. Pray for people, pray for them, offer help when you can, and just have grace.
All right, so this has been a very powerful episode, and huge thanks to you, Renay, for being
Thank you for having
my very first guest on my return show. It's nice just to listen to your journey.
Yeah.
While yes, being a family member, I get a deeper insight as to what's going on, but just to sit here, have this conversation with you and hear the parts that I didn't know about, it's really great.
Yeah.
And continue with your advocacy. I wish you well on your show.
Thank you.
Because the conversations that you're having are really good. And I'm sure that persons who are watching are persons who are from Open Chat will go over there and watch your show as well.
Thank you for having me.
Remember, subscribe, Let me say, subscribe to Possibility Beyond, because you don't know what can happen in your future. And to get these information is really good, because there's a lot out there. And that's why she decided to create her show and put it out there. She's being, what's the word now? Vulnerable by sharing her personal story. And not many persons are willing to do that. So guys, subscribe, like, comment, share it with somebody else.
Yes.
Because you don't know who in the quiet may have that problem and just wanted somebody just to share something with them. And guys, thank you for watching Open Chat Podcast. See you again. And the positive quote of the day is, a diagnosis does not define a destiny. It simply reveals a new way to walk into your purpose.
Love it.
That's Open Chat Podcast, guys. See you next time.
Open Chat Podcast.
Tying up, but we killing them with the beat.